Meet me at the Chazen. I'm your host, Gianofer Fields. The exhibition is entitled Insistent Presence, Contemporary African Art from the Chazen Collection, and features a sculpture by Ugandan visual artist Immy Mali entitled Virtually Mine.
So my work is about memory and the complexities in memory and interrogating that. Childhood memories currently is the work that I'm working around, but things that are infused in there in terms of the education system, in terms of religion, in terms of the patriarchal society that you grow up in. My family is a huge subject matter for me to keep going back to and interrogating. Yeah, I think I can say that for now.
It consists of over 300 glass tiles cut to the size of a cell phone screen. Each tile is covered with a vinyl sheet and printed with a text message sent between Mali and her then sweetie, now husband. The conversation spans the 2 years they were apart. The glass tiles hang from a metal rod and once installed, take the shape of a person. The tingling you hear is created by the slightest movement of air. Immy, you work in so many different mediums. Is it the memory that dictates the medium, or do you have a memory and then whatever happens, happens? Do you have like I have this memory, I'm going to capture it in this medium, or is it something pops up and then that's what dictates how you decide to share that with an audience or share it with even yourself?
Well, it mainly is the whatever pops up, whatever idea comes, then kind of directs me to the medium that I should use. Because some ideas come and it's best, you can only capture them in sound. And then I use sound as a medium to work with. And then some can only be in text. And then I use text. And then some can only be in food. And then I use food as a medium. So it really keeps evolving and changing based on the idea and how best to communicate it.
So is it instantaneous? Do you have a memory and then the medium pops into your head, or do you sort of work it over and dissect it in your head and go, okay, then this is the best way to do this?
I do a lot of writing in notebooks. I do a lot of writing in notebooks. Unfortunately, I don't follow the notebook, so I sometimes write in the middle of the page and then the end of the book and then like come to the beginning. So it's really a jumble. I love to keep them. I would, the last time I had notebooks for my residency in Amsterdam, I kind of had to ship them back. Yeah, because I would rather lose anything else by my notebooks.
That would be like losing your mind. If you lost your notebook,
exactly.
It would be like losing your mind.
Yeah. So I have this, and most times I keep writing down. Different ideas come to me when I'm doing different things. Sometimes I'm cooking, and then I'm like, oh, it would be good in this medium. Or sometimes I'm walking, and then I could see something and think, oh, that might be good. To use that. So I think it really is different mediums, yes, that come together, but it's the idea that keeps evolving through the different things I jot down. It's jotting down, and I listen a lot. I listen a lot more than I watch things on screen. I would rather listen. So I think the process of listening as well also helps me put things together. Yeah.
It's funny you say that, because whenever I teach younger people on how to do audio, I tell them, go find a movie, something that you love, and just listen to it.
Yeah.
Just listen to the emotion in it, listen to the sound of it, listen to the quality of their voices. Yeah. Do they use music or do they not? And then start to put the picture together.
Yes, exactly.
Because there's something about that. Because I think that sound permeates in a way that watching something doesn't necessarily hit the same way.
No. When I was growing up, we listened to BBC a lot. We listened to BBC a lot. It's the only place I knew about plays, like radio plays, radio drama, and for me that was the picture, like the sound was the picture. I don't know how else to say that, but it was. So even now, I find that if I watch things, I'm distracted a lot than when I listen. Because when you listen, then you learn to pay attention more intently to your surroundings, to whatever is happening. And I think that is quite key in the process of making. Because I think we get distracted a lot by maybe colors and things like this. And then sometimes the soul of the work is in the sound. Yeah.
You know, I'm so glad you said that, because we're standing in front of one of your works, and it's it's a sound that for me is a duality. Mm-hmm. I love the sound of this piece.
Yes.
However, there are times in my life when I don't love this particular sound. So talk to me about the decision. Yeah. First of all, I want you to tell me about this piece, and then we can get into how you made the decision to turn this sound into something that's solid.
Yeah.
Because there's a little bit of a disconnect. This isn't necessarily the sound this thing makes. And I'm talking all around it. Yeah. So I'm just going to have you describe it, because I'm sure people are sick of me talking all around it. So talk to me about this work that we're standing in front of, right? The way you're casting this spell right now with this work.
Okay. Well, okay, so the work is virtually mine. It's a work that composes of over 300 tiny pieces of glass that mimic the size of a Sony Xperia. I think it was C200 I think Sony Xperia C200, which I spent a lot of time on as I was communicating to my then-fiancé. And the conversations he had to leave Uganda. He had to leave Uganda for the purpose of finding work, that could pay much better than work at home. And before he left, there were always questions of, do you really have to go? Can't we find a way to leave here? Can't we find a way that makes sense for us here? But then, of course, he had other responsibilities, like take care of his younger sister's education and stuff like that. So he had to leave anyway. And then, I was invited to be part of an exhibition, a traveling exhibition on migration from the south to the east from the southern parts of Africa to East Africa, and then to Europe. And so when I was invited for that commission, I went commissioned to do a work there. I kept thinking, how best can I capture this, talk about migration, but still be able to have myself engaged in this work. And I work best when I interrogate my own life, because I feel like then I can understand the world and stuff. And so, so that is when Virtually Mine came up. I had to call, he's called Mark, I had to call him, be like, I think I'm gonna share our conversations. What do you feel about this?
You're laughing now. I'm guessing that's out of nervousness.
He was like, could you just explain to me what you want to do? Because these are like our private conversations. Anyway, so he's like, okay, you can do it, but I have to see what you're going to share. So we have to go through it together. So like the explicit bits we had to put out, because this tiny phone was literally, for me, him, let's just say. Yeah, it's a very weird thing, but
it's not. It's not, and I think that's having that extension. Yeah. Having that, like how do you embrace somebody who's not there?
Exactly.
How do you do that? And so then, what becomes the conduit for that? And why is it so weird when people wear wedding rings?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like this object. I think that my background, and I say this every interview, and people are sick of this too. I don't care, because it's true. My background is art history, material culture. So I'm I'm fascinated with people's relationships with objects and things. Because when you think about, this is a wild tangent, and I'm gonna do this. You think about hoarders and their desire to hold on.
Yeah.
You chose, and it's not hoarding, but you chose a very small thing that's now big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine how obtrusive this would be in your life if you saved every cup, every
Exactly.
napkin, every piece of paper, every shoe, everything
Yeah.
from every event you shared together while he was
Yeah.
in Uganda with
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
I mean, to me, this is like the best possible way of coping with somebody not being there.
So yeah, because then it was more from. I kept thinking of what kept me interested in this long distance relationship also.
Fair question.
Yeah, and then I would have to imagine this grand, grand man and grand human being, and think of all his good features. And also, we started dating after very long years without meeting. So it kind of started online. He came a bit, but then he left, and then yeah. So, for some reason, I thought he was a very tall man, very handsome man. No, yeah, okay.
I like it. For some reason, I don't possibly have any responsibility in this, but for some reason.
Yeah, but anyway, so, and then it was always also pictures that were fed to me by movies and all these things. And I was like, okay, I'm going to create this, because then all, like, this little thing is really him, and all these conversations would have. And we have moments where we had a fight, and then I deleted the entire thing. And and I have blank little screens as well for that as part of the installation. So so it was just interesting that this little object was taking all this pressure, like the fights, the happy moments, the like everything that you'd have in a relationship was very virtual. And for some reason, like, I still have the phone. I just can't throw it away. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna keep this.
How could you? How could you?
Yeah.
Because and it's what I love about the work is that it's these tiny strings, these invisible lines that are holding up this conversation. And it's that sort of like that, there's very tangible things about love, and there's very tangible things about being in a relationship. And then when something shifts from being, because I don't think of dating as the relationship. You date in order to find the relationship. But there's all these sort of like intangible things that sometimes you can see and sometimes you can't see.
Exactly.
And then glass can be very resilient, but glass can also be very fragile.
Yeah.
So it's like all these elements of what it is to be involved with somebody.
Yeah, and of course the glass was quite key for me, because then it's a place where this relationship can easily break. And so because then I thought, okay, glass would be the best medium to be able to work in. So this is how we arrive at the medium, because then we think, okay, how best can you portray this in a way that would relate to what you're thinking, or what you want to put forth and stuff like that. So yeah, for me then the glass was that. And of course, the line we're using is about 0.18. And it allows it almost feels like the glass is floating, like floating, and takes you to this virtual space as well. And and now it stands more, of course, like a memory piece. I think then as well it was still memories, because it was memories that was holding me still into this relationship. Like, oh, he looks like this, and we had this moment, and I can't stay because of this and this and this, But yeah.
What's the first conversation you committed to glass? At what point did you say, okay, this has been a thought, now it's time to put it into practice, and now it's time to take this concrete thing with this ethereal background and solidify it? Because once you solidify it, it's even more real. Because even, like you said, you deleted some of them.
Yeah.
So this can come and go. It's still like sort of like this mysterious, ethereal, ghostly kind of thing.
Coming to when I decided that, okay, let this be glass and things like that, it was more when I thought of how fragile the relationship was, because we were away from each other for 2 years.
Ooh.
He could have dated somebody else.
So could have you.
Exactly. Yeah, so that could have happened. But then it just was looking at that fragility of it is something that could vanish anytime. It feels solid. It feels solid at that very moment. But then just one thing and everything shatters. So that was one of the reasons that was like, okay, I can work in glass and I can use glass for this, because this was also the first time I was handling glass ever. So yeah.
So then what was the first message? What message did you settle on? Like, what was the first one you committed to glass?
The first text message.
Yes. And if you can share it, because it might be one of those personal ones. They got the...
No, all I can say is the messages were started from about 2014. 2014, and then I did this work in 2016. So I can't say I really remember the very first message, but I do remember that there were more messages that sort of were like sexting that we had to take out. So
yeah, that's nobody's business but your own.
Exactly. So
love is one of those things that can be, it's so fragile, but can be so enduring.
Yeah.
And it is floating, and it does change, and sometimes it is the way the wind blows, and sometimes, whatever is swirling around it can make it move and make sound and make changes.
So yeah, there wasn't one particular message, but I just know we had to like, I know you can share that. I know you can share that. Yeah, he was a bit hesitant at first, but he also is a very, very supportive person when it comes to my work, because I left him home with my 2-year-old daughter, like with our 2-year-old daughter, and he's always making like time, and it's like, okay, do you need me to step back and do this, and then you can go and do this? So he's also very, very, very supportive in terms of seeing my career grow, which I really appreciate, because that's not common. That's not very common.
But you know what? That's what that 2 years did. What happens when that person isn't there? What happens is what you have is this. I mean, and the phone is it's personal, it's private, it's business, it's necessity, it's emergency,
Exactly.
it's everything.
Everything.
It becomes
yeah.
like your what do you call that?
Your journal.
It becomes your
something.
journal.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know if you've ever had if you had one when you were a kid, but like your little keepsake box where you keep all your little special things.
Yes.
It becomes this thing that holds all this.
Yes.
So it's understandable that you can't get rid of that actual physical object.
Yeah. No, I can't. Yeah. I can. I'm like, every time I see it, I'm like, okay, this is part of a work that needs to stay a work. Like that object itself is a work. And I was just mentioning to Margaret that it's part of the museum collection now, but then it almost feels like a loss also.
Well, yeah. It's like you're putting your love in somebody else's hands.
Exactly. Yeah, it does feel like that. Like I'm like, but then that's the nature of almost all my work. So I'm like, it's something that I have to live with, because then I will otherwise have all my work in my studio forever.
So then, let's talk about this idea of, is it still transformative for you as you're hanging these strands? And more importantly, as you're watching somebody else hold your love in their hands on these very fragile, thin lines. Talk about what that does for your heart. Is it a heart thing? Is it a head thing? Is it a work thing? Do you compartmentalize it that way? Or are you just kind of always like, this person that I just met 10 years ago, or this person that I just met 5 minutes ago, or however long ago, has my heart in their hands?
Well, I think at this point, at the point when I knew the acquisition was happening, it was more like, okay, now these are the last moments, and that I have with this work, and it's going off, and it's going to have another life, and as especially quite happy that it's an institution that's having it and not an individual.
Yes.
Because then it doesn't feel like it's you're like giving it to another person, or something like that. But you know that it's as a collectively owned work that other people can be able to engage with, and so that I think took away a lot of the pressures of feeling like And then now it's an incredible team that I'm working with. And now it's more like a work thing. I'm like, okay, if they can be able to see how it's hung, to be able to handle it with the amount of care that I give it, and then be able to put it up, then that for me at this point is enough. But I do feel like the moments where I'm hanging and I'm like, the last time I'm doing this, like.
You know what's crazy, Emmy?
Yeah.
As you were talking about that, it tinged. So it's like you spoke some sort of truth to it. It was like, okay, Mom, all right, it's okay.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I think struck me was watching Kate and Margaret unpack it. It was like you could feel it sort of even on the tables, and when they were unwrapping it, you could sort of feel it starting, like taking its breath, like sort of like, okay, here we come, here we go now. So then, do you have? What's your relationship with it when it's all packed away? When it's not breathing, when it's not moving, when it's not, because part of it hanging is also allowing us to walk through it and feel that sort of somehow, I don't want to say have ownership, but somehow touch, this very personal, private, this love coming to fruition. It's going to, you know what, people are going to come here on dates and read this. I just thought about that. This is going to be a date night piece, I think. Because why wouldn't you? Be like, look, if they could do it, we can do it.
That would be so funny.
So does it have a different place when it's packed away? Do you feel like that's part of the relationship becoming private again?
Well, when it's when it's been packed away in my studio, like I said, most of my work is like created and nicely placed in my studio, because I'm like, okay, if it needs to go, then it needs to go to a place that, and luckily most of the work has gone to like institutions and not very much to individuals. So I'm like, that's a good start. But then when it's packed away, it definitely feels different when it comes out and then you're walking by and it's because the tingling will keep happening once we're done installing. That's definitely going to keep happening. And I think that definitely breathes a lot more than if it's packed away. So I think I like it better when it's out and breathing, and I think it speaks more to, of course, the virtuality, like what memory does and the complexities of memory as well. So I think that really comes through better when it's out there. Than when it's packed away. It's sort of like a double-edged sword.
So this exhibition is entitled Insistent Presence. And if there's anything that insists a presence, it's 300 and something screenshots from a conversation. In the form of a figure. And is a figure male or female, or is it both of you? And why did you choose this particular outline for the piece?
When I was first conceiving it, I always thought of the figure as one. But then when I realized it's not a one-way conversation, it's a two-way conversation, then the figure becomes the both of us. But then also when I go to install it in different places, I use different people who are in that place at that time, because it's not really based on the two of us. Like this figure I made with John and Roscoe right here, because it's not about the physical being, but it's about the two spirits that met within this space and are part of this work and come together to have this conversation, because it feels like the conversation still continues even when the piece is up. So, insistent presence,
I just like the idea of, you said that you based it on this, because when we first started talking, you were talking about how you haven't had an idea of who he was and what he looked like in your head. And still you're playing with that idea of what that looks like in your head.
Yeah.
Even in this now hanging, in the years of this work, there's still sort of that, what does it really look like? What does all this really look like and mean?
Yeah, no, because I don't think that's going to stop. I think the work allows you to keep interrogating it further and further and further, because also when I realize the things we're talking about, there's a lot of religion that comes through in the work. There's a lot of maybe economic situations that come through in the work. We do a lot of, we spend a lot of, because he's a landscaper and I'm an artist and we're trying to build a house now, but that conversation started way back and this comes through. This comes through, like we're choosing furniture, we're choosing like stuff within this. So it's a lot of social elements, political elements that keep popping up and coming through this. And I think it will not speak just for the two of us, but then continues to open the question on migration even wider and wider, and spirituality even wider. I've never thought of it in that sense, but now, like now, it starts being like, oh, okay, that could also be talking about this and that, and yeah. And also when you mentioned that it looked like we were casting a spell, I was like, that is another different level. That but artwork should be doing that all the time. It should be opening up one's mind all the time to be able to think about different dimensions. And I am glad that that's happening here. Yeah.
Is there one in particular that you want to read or share with me? Or do you want, because I'm telling you this right now, when I asked Margaret and when I asked Kate to do it, they were nervous. Margaret would read one, but she's like, that's my friend. I don't want to get too much into her business. So is there one you want to read?
Well, I could read one. Let's just see. I don't know what this is, but that's a German thing. I don't even know what we're talking about, but okay. That's a German thing. Then he says, it seems a bit far-fetched. That's what makes it more interesting. When are you starting work on it? In June, we're taken. When we're taken. I'm loving it. I just can't wait to see you produce. We probably were talking about an artist residency or something, and I was talking about doing work, but like that's a German thing? I don't know.
But isn't that a relationship? Isn't that love? It's all these like little bits and pieces that in the moment mean something and build a relationship, but necessarily by themselves or kind of like you have no idea.
Let's see which other one we can do.
I'm like really interested as to why you're making that face. You're giving the crazy lips.
Well, I say, how many were they? And then he says, show them to me first. I think it's, he must have bought me these glasses. And maybe I didn't like them. I don't know.
Okay, you were going to pick another one, so you just pick one.
He must have bought them and sent them over with someone. And then I was showing him what they look like. Okay. I don't know. Where do we go?
It could be any. It's interesting to me that you're like picking over them and deciding, but all of these will be held up for public view. I love this wild, I just love it. I love it. I cannot tell you how much I love this.
I'm like, that's private, but then it's out here already. Okay. Blankets in Uganda are not woolen. My colleague has less than a week. You should call him Banange. I forgot. Banange is like, I don't know how to, I don't think it has an English word. But okay, Banange, I forgot. Okay. Is it late to call him now? It's just 8, maybe not. Then I could meet him tomorrow. Try and see. Please help me with his number again. He must have had a friend who had come over and they were sending something. Okay, I'll just pick one. Am I being random? This one.
Okay.
Would I wear one if my wife bought it? Would you wear it? I want to know. Seriously? Yes, I want to know. I would do anything for you. Ha ha. That would be torture. But why make me wear that? And incense? And incense? I don't know what this is. But that's it. That's it.
Perfect. Is there anything you want to tell me I didn't ask you?
At the time that we installed it in Kampala, I walked away once my friends walked in. I was like, okay, you go see the work. I'm going to go away.
Because I'm sure it changes relationships. Like, you know.
It definitely does. It definitely does. And yeah, some of them would pick up something. Guys, Immy shared this. Come and see. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go away from here.
I'm going to tell you right now, Margaret's a good friend because she was not going to rat you out. Margaret was like, no, I'm not reading it. She read one, and then that was it. She's like, no. You're not catching me in that trick bag. Woo! That was fun. Yeah.
I wonder why.
Oh,
We talked about what a good friend you were because you were like, nope, I'm not reading that. You get one out of me and that's it. You've been listening to Meet Me at the Chazen. Our guest, Immy Mali, is a visual artist and creator of Virtually Mine, a sculpture currently on display in our exhibition entitled Insistent Presence, Contemporary African Art in the Chazen Collection at UW-Madison's Chazen Museum of Art. Meet Me at the Chazen is a production of the Chazen Museum of Art on the campus of UW-Madison in Madison, Wisconsin. For more information about the museum, its collections and exhibitions, visit chazen.wisc.edu. I'm your host, Gianofer Fields. Thank you for listening.